Good morning and welcome to Coffee and the Word. This is our sixth edition of Blind Guy Bible Time. And yeah, I know, I said last time it was number 4, but it wasn't. It was number 5. And thank you all for letting me know. Once again, we are welcoming back our blind guy for our Blind Guy Bible Time during Coffee and the Word. And I hope that you're enjoying this. I want you to do me a favor, make a comment. I don't care if the comment is, that blind guy is great, but you're not very good at this. I don't care. I just want to comment. Let me know you're engaging in this. Let us know what we can do better. Let us know if you have any questions. One of the things I think Danny and I are really good at is bouncing off questions. So if you have questions that we can prepare for and we can kind of wrestle with, we're happy to hear those from you. So drop them in the comments. Actually, I was going to say send me an email, but I'd really like it if you drop them in the comments so that when we answer them, people will know why we're answering them. Welcome, Mr. Danny Mann Jr. How are you, sir?
Hello, Brother House, and all the YouTube world, wherever you are. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am fantastic. Haven't I've actually really been looking forward to this particular discussion this week because I think you have a bit of news for us.
Well, you didn't know that until we were visiting prior to the starting the recording. But yeah, we're going to come back and be there live and in person starting Sunday, this next Sunday morning. So I'm looking forward to that very much. And
Sun
I figure suppose the one of the other reasons you're looking forward to today is because I made such a big mess Sunday. We got a lot to clean up.
Well, I think you cleaned most of it up on Sunday, but we're going to cover a couple of those things today. So I have, I think the big question is you called this week's lesson was easy for me to say, apocalyptic alarms.
Right.
And so we have talked in the past about what apocalyptic means, and it's not, it's not tornadoes and hurricanes necessarily. In fact, the people who were reading it at the time would not have thought of apocalyptic as being devastation, right?
No, it would not be a negative thing. It would have been to those who were reading this kind of material and looking forward to what this kind of material is talking about. It would actually be very positive. It would be hopeful. It would not be something that they would be afraid of at all. They would be looking forward to it.
So when we talk about apocalyptic, Revelation is an apocalyptic book, yes?
Yes.
And are there other books in the Bible that are apocalyptic?
Yes. So this is probably the one thing that I haven't touched on, and we're going to touch on it more completely. We're actually going to have cartoons in class on Sunday morning, or a cartoon. So I hope you'll be there for that, everybody. Um, so I think we've got a handle on the fact that in our day and age, the word apocalypse or apocalyptic is a scary thing, and that it wasn't in the day of that the Revelation was written. It was something that was looked forward to and considered to be a positive and not a negative. The thing that I haven't spent as much time talking about is that apocalyptic literature is symbolic. It's full of symbols. And I don't mean the kind of symbols in the marching band. I mean it's full of things that need, as the writer expresses what he's watching and what he's seeing, and he sees, for instance, at one point a red dragon floating around in outer space who has a tail that is wiping a third of the stars from the sky, and guess what? They fall to Earth. And there's a woman in the very last moments of childbirth, and she is positioned at his head at the dragon's mouth, and the dragon is waiting for her to give birth to that child. And the dragon is going to eat that child, to kill that child when that child is born. Those are the kind of symbols I'm talking about. Now, the Gospel of John doesn't have those kind of symbols. It's not symbolic. Okay, so it's not apocalyptic. And I misspoke Sunday morning talking about some of the Old Testament prophecies, and I said that a book like Habakkuk was apocalyptic, because it is a revealing, and all of Scripture is a revealing, and certainly all the prophecies are revealing. And that's really what the word apocalypse means. It means an uncovering or a revealing. But Habakkuk is not a revealing with symbols. Habakkuk is like a dragon. They're obvious. And so the writer of Revelation actually says a little bit later on, after he's described that scene, he says, and the dragon is ... And he tells us what the dragon represents. And so that's the huge difference and the key difference between an apocalyptic piece of literature and all of the other literature that's in the Bible.
So the first 5 books of the Old Testament, while they are revealing something, they're not apocalyptic literature.
No, because it's not. Now, there are things there that we don't see really on a regular basis, like a serpent that's talking in Genesis chapters 1 and 2 and 3. But that's still not stars in the sky and falling to the earth and locusts that are as big as horses and beasts that are flying in the air that have 4 different kinds of faces and wings all over their body. I mean, not wings, eyes all over their body, even under their wings, even on top of their, I mean, these are symbols that don't appear in other part. Now, Daniel has apocalyptic material in it, one of the Old Testament prophets. Ezekiel has apocalyptic material in it. Zechariah has apocalyptic material in it. And there may be 1 or 2 instances of apocalyptic material, but there is no book in either the Old or the New Testament that is almost 100% apocalyptic like Revelation.
And so,
with symbols.
So if we don't understand that, we miss what?
You know what I wish we could do? And I don't know how long this would take. It'd probably take too much time. But let me see if I can explain it like this. When you go, if you could go to one of the world's famous museums and see some of the world's most famous works of art. For instance, if we could go to Rome and we could see that beautiful painting of that Michelangelo came up, that he drew, that we call the Last Supper, right? And it's a picture, it's a painting of his idea of what that might have looked like, the Last Supper. And people have looked at that piece of art for hundreds of years, but they don't go and look at that piece of art and say, you see that little bit of blue on Peter's tunic? I wonder why Michelangelo picked that blue. We don't do that. We look at the art, at the piece of art in its completion, in its totality, and we go, wow. And that's what's supposed to happen with Revelation. And the only way that happens with Revelation, Dale, is if we could sit down some evening and have a really gifted reader read the whole thing to us in one sitting, so that we would walk away with all of these fantastical images in our minds. That would be the perfect way to experience the book of Revelation. but to our uh, to its, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the words. To to its undoing, let's put it that way. What we've done with the book of what's been done with the book of Revelation is that people have taken symbols, things that are just symbols, and tried to make them literal. And then taken, just like I suggested, looking at one little bit of Peter's tunic and the color blue there, and made it all about that. Wonder why we use that color blue. Wonder why it's that big. Well, I wonder why it's on Peter. Well, I wonder, I mean, you could, but you don't do that with a book, and that's what we do with the book of Revelation. We pull certain things out of it. We take away we stop thinking about them as symbols, start thinking about them as literal things, and then start attributing meaning to them that they don't have. Is any of this making any sense to you?
Yes, in fact, I think that's a great way to look at it. And one of the things that can I tell a quick story?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I had somebody call me several months back, and they were asking me about a book, and I can't remember which book they were reading in the Old Testament, but they got caught up in one little section of it, and they didn't read the context. They didn't read the backdrop. They didn't read the setting. In fact, I think it was the book of Job, now that I think about it. And if you read the book of Job out of its context, or if you microscopically, like you said, go find that little blue dot on Peter, and you don't look at the whole painting, you'll not understand that a lot of the advice given in the book of Job it's not coming from God, nor is it ordained by God. In fact, he calls them people who darken his counsel with words without wisdom. So I think we could learn that about reading everything in Scripture, is it all has a backdrop. It all has a context. Sure. And I think it's important.
You just got back from a trip, not just, but you, in the last year, have been to Colorado, right?
Going back in September, just FYI.
And you stayed in some sort of a. Tell us a little bit about that. When you walked out in the morning, what did you see?
So, yeah, I was looking at a beautiful mountain, snow-covered mountain, right in front of right as soon as I walked out the door, and to my right and to my left, I was completely encompassed, and we were sitting on an overlook that got to see a valley and mountains that I could never capture in a picture. Yeah.
And that's one of the frustrations, right? When you try to take a picture of something like that, and then you get it home and show it to everybody, and everybody goes, "Oh, yeah, that's nice." But you never once. Now you might have, if you were sitting there with somebody, you might have said, "Now look at that valley. Isn't that beautiful the way that the river runs through that little valley?" And you might have noticed, distinctive parts of that panorama, but you didn't once sit there and say, "You see that tiniest little bitty fleck of that something way out there? I wonder why that's there." That wasn't what awed you about what you were seeing every morning. The majesty of the whole thing in its completion is what awed you, right?
Right.
And that's what I wish we could see about the book of Revelation. I wish we could experience it all at one time, all together, and hear and listen the way they must have listened in the first century, and walked away with all of those images, instead of who is 666 and who is he today and who was he then and
what is the 144,000 and
picking out these little bitty things, and we can ascribe meaning to some of them, but some of them we can't, and that's not, and they weren't intended to have meaning except to be awesome.
Yeah,
and something being awesome doesn't seem to be enough for a lot of us anymore.
And don't you think that's part of the struggle in teaching it and trying to get people out of this mindset is that we have to say things that people are uncomfortable with so that they can see the big picture because they've been told their whole life about this little picture. And I definitely feel that. I feel like people get hung up on me trying to get them to see the big picture, that they think I'm saying something that they can't possibly understand until I finish painting the picture for them. And I feel that frustration. I'm sure you do as well. And so can we finish revisiting this tomorrow in our next Coffee and the Word? Because I think there's more to talk about here, but I do want to leave us with a little bit of an encouragement. Oftentimes, and I know Danny will echo this, but oftentimes when we sit down and we're trying to teach something as complex, and it is a complex book, that's why we're all afraid of it. We're trying to teach a complex book. We have to build a foundation, and that's the hard part, right? That's the part that we don't enjoy. And why don't we start talking about the dragons and the winged creatures? Well, because you're not ready to see them yet. Right. I have to give you a way to understand how to see them before you can ever see them. And that's what Danny's trying to do here. And so I want to encourage you, if you're frustrated because we haven't yet gotten to the good part, just relax. The good part is going to be better when we know how to see the good part. So thank you, Danny. We're going to do 2 this week, so we're going to do another one tomorrow. And we're going to be dressed in the same clothes because we're going to record it the same day. It's not like we're dirty. We actually will take showers.
No, don't tell them that. That's imagine.
Well, I am going to be showering tonight, so I might have the same clothes on now because I recorded it now. But anyway, for today, thank you so much for joining us. This has been another edition of Coffee and the Word.